For 2 centuries, they were the terror of every coast in Europe. Then, within a single lifetime, they vanished. This is why. Farmers on one small Swedish island keep digging up treasure. Buried silver, thousands upon thousands of coins, and almost none of them are European. The coins come from Baghdad, from Samarkand, from mints 3,000 kilometers away, across rivers, mountains, and seas. One hoard alone weighed 67 kilograms. On this single island, diggers have counted 168,000 Arab coins. The people who buried this silver were Vikings, and it tells a story the sagas leave out. We remember the Vikings one way: dragon ships out of the fog, burning monasteries, stolen gold. But follow the silver, and the Viking Age looks less like a rampage and more like a business. The story begins in 793, a quiet island monastery off the coast of northern England. Lindisfarne. Longships appear out of the sea. The monks are cut down or dragged away. The treasury is emptied within the hour. Europe was horrified, but the raiders had not come out of nowhere. Scandinavia itself was changing. Farms were small and stony, sons were many, and power belonged to whichever chief could give his men silver and glory. A chief did not buy land with his wealth. He bought men. Warriors followed the Lord with open hands, and these men had a machine nobody else possessed. The longship, fast, shallow, and able to land wherever there was water. A church by the sea, a town up a river. To a longship, everything was reachable. Everything was open. But the biggest prize was not in the west at all. It lay east, down the great rivers of Russia. Swedish Vikings, the Rus, dragged their ships from river to river, carrying them overland on logs and shoulders between the waters. The Volga led to the silver markets of the Caliphate. The Dnieper led to Constantinople, the richest city on earth. Down those rivers they brought furs, amber, walrus ivory, and slaves. Human beings were the most profitable cargo of all, and the East paid for all of it in one thing: silver. Coin after coin after coin. In 922, an Arab envoy met the Rus on the Volga and wrote down what he saw: men tall as palm trees and hungry for silver. The mines of the Caliphate poured out millions of coins, and a river of silver flowed north into Scandinavia. Archaeologists have found more Arab silver buried in Sweden than almost anywhere else outside the Middle East. The raids made the legends, but the rivers made the fortunes. In the West, the business had another arm: robbery, and Europe made robbery easy. Monasteries were stuffed with treasure and guarded by prayer. To a Viking crew, they were banks with no walls. And when raiding grew risky, there was an even better trick: get paid not to raid at all. The kings of England and France handed over tons of silver as protection money. They called it the Danegeld. One English payment alone came to 48,000 pounds of silver, enough to sit a fleet low in the water. Back home, every coin was converted into power: arm rings for warriors, bride payments, ships, retinues, kingdoms in waiting. Silver in, loyalty out. That was the engine of the Viking Age. By 900, the network stretched further than any empire of its age. West to Iceland, to Greenland, and for a few brief years to the coast of North America itself. East to the rivers of Russia, where Norse princes ruled from timber fortresses in Novgorod and Kyiv. And south to Constantinople, where Norse axemen stood guard over the Roman emperor himself. They founded trading towns that never stopped growing: Dublin, York, and the great northern market of Hedeby. In a town of long houses and mud streets, a trader could buy silk that had started its journey in China. The world had not yet invented the word globalization. The Vikings were already living it. Then, quietly, thousands of kilometers away, the engine began to die. The great silver mines of Central Asia were running out. The coins grew thin, then debased, then scarce. By around 970, the river of silver flowing north had thinned to a trickle. The hoards in the ground tell the story plainly: fewer coins, younger coins missing, then none at all. For chiefs who bought loyalty with silver, this was not an inconvenience. It was an extinction. So the smartest leaders changed the business. Stop raiding for treasure. Start conquering for land. Denmark's kings took the whole of England, not to rob it, to tax it. In 1066, the last great Viking king sailed against England. He died at a place called Stamford Bridge. The history books call that the end of the Viking Age, but the real ending had happened decades earlier. Underground. The raiders had already become kings, Christians, Normans, Russians. The wild network had hardened into states. When the silver stopped, the Viking way of power stopped with it. The dragon ships did not lose a war. They lost their business model. On that Swedish island, the ground still gives up hoards, silver that was buried for safekeeping and never reclaimed. And every unclaimed hoard means the same thing. Someone buried their fortune, sailed out, and never came back for it. We remember the axes. The silver remembers everything else. So when a people explodes across the world, don't only ask who they fought, ask what they were paid in.